Welcome back to the podcast. Today we're going to talk about, how to grow your company through data mining and really start to put together that sales funnel and the ideas of how to create that in a way that, that's impactful, right? A lot of you guys have ideas and, what about this? What about that? I talk to you all the time about, what platform should you be on, how to do these things. I know a lot of you feel a lot like a cat chasing a laser pointer and you're not getting the idea of how to do it. And today, I've got Andrew Palosi, who's going to bring us the ideas and focus on how to look at that and how to get the data to really guide you in creating a funnel, a sales funnel that has you produce a predictable deliverable for each and every one of you. You're going to love this. So pay attention. This will be a good time for you to pay attention and really have the idea of how to jump into creating your sales funnel. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Anthony, so awesome to be here. Really appreciate the opportunity.
I said before in the start of this, a lot of our people feel like chasing a laser pointer, right? What about this? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Angie's List, right? A lot of these sales organizations that need to produce sales, right? We're growing a company. I need sales to grow my company. And I'm not sure. Am I spitting in the wind? How do I know what marketing to do? I've tried marketing. I haven't seen any great impact. Frustration abounds.
Sure. Look, I think there are more platforms than ever. I think that the decision of where to spend the dollar has become more difficult than ever. And I think that, what's really central to these conversations is the outcome, right? I think that, a lot of the time when you start having conversations with any organization that is trying to sell you advertising, what are they selling, right? What are the conversations surrounding? Are they surrounding impressions? Are they surrounding general presence and inclusion in what they're selling, or are they selling you actual conversion statistics like appointments being made, sales opportunities, revenue that has been gained as a result of the advertising on the platform, right? What are the conversations like? And I think that that's where a lot of people go wrong, is the decisions are very difficult. But if at the onset you're not having conversations that are centered around what you're trying to achieve, I think that you're destined for failure.
Well, so let's be clear about it. So, what it is you're trying to achieve. So, a guy says, "Well, look, I want to make more sales. How many more? How much more sales? What kind of sales? What's the profitable stuff you want to do? I mean, look, just sales for sales' sake. That's gonna be difficult to identify and figure out. But let's talk about what kind of sales and what it is you're really trying to achieve. How do you figure that out with somebody?
Yeah, look, Anthony, I think it's all about the question and answer and the expectation building at the onset, right? Like if you're talking to somebody that doesn't fundamentally dive into your business, that doesn't fundamentally understand what is considered a good sale, what you're actually looking for from a sale, and the ultimate benefit to the business for that conversion or for that sale, those are the wrong conversations, right? I think at this point, we've evolved way beyond vanity metrics into knowing that to be a good advertising partner, to be a good marketing partner, we're talking operations, right? We want to understand that handoff. We want to understand that full funnel and build programs that supplement that funnel, not ask you to recreate everything about the business, right? And so if you're not having that conversation of where that lead goes from start to finish, if you can't have a real full funnel conversation with a marketing or advertising partner, typically speaking, those are the conversations that we see, that just don't ultimately end up in success, because the person you're dealing with doesn't understand the business well enough to build a program that's going to work. If you don't understand the problems of the business and what the business needs, how do you build a program that's going to fulfill the need that they're looking to fulfill?
I love that. Now let's back up a little bit. So let's talk about that. What you mentioned, vanity matrix, right? So a lot of us have had that. I've got this is what do you mean by that?
So I think that, when you look at a lot of reporting that we see peddled to clients on an everyday basis, they're seeing things like impressions, right? They're seeing things like cost per thousand impressions. They're seeing these massive numbers of people that they allegedly reached, in air quotes, right? But they're not seeing actual conversion metrics. They're not seeing how many meaningful conversations their business had as a result. They're not seeing how many real sales opportunities that the company would consider a real conversion That's not being identified as a result of the advertising. They're not seeing $1 in equals how many out, right? And what that looks like at every step along the way, and where that initial advertising opportunity is falling off. That's not being analyzed at the level of depth that it needs to, and put in front of the client to say, hey, here is where we're seeing solid initial results. Here's where that conversation or that opportunity is falling off, that is not allowing it to continue to move into this phase of ultimately what we're trying to achieve in sales and a solid return on your advertising spend.
Well, I think that's a big part, right? I understand that the funnel itself has to be set up for it to be successful, right? I mean, now look, obviously I'm not getting a partner like Google to give me, they don't care about my business. They're like, look, you want to go on you want to spend more money with us, right? Spend more money, price per click. They have no idea they don't understand the conversion requirement. Like I can't just market for market's sake. I've got to actually convert that into a profitable deal, right?
That's right.
Now, is that what you're saying? You spend time actually going through that with the client and really identifying how are you going to convert this and how do you make it profitable?
I think that our conversations start with the end in mind. And what I mean by that, Anthony, is what is it that we're trying to achieve with this advertising spend, with this
Got it.
campaign, with this initiative? What is our end goal, right? And then our job is to understand the end goal and understand what has to happen along the way for that to happen, right? So when we start here, understanding the sales and the expectation from the buy, and we know their process and where they're currently converting, how they're currently converting along the way, that is the only way we stand a chance to build a meaningful marketing or advertising mix that will set them up for success to achieve that goal. So truly starting with the end in mind, reverse engineering based on understanding their process. That's how we get to a place of building an advertising mix that we think is going to help them get there.
All right, so let's start with a catering company. We'll use a catering company as an example. For you service folks out there, it could be a painting company, it could be a carpentry company. Look, it's a service. Let's use a catering company. Look, you sell to people that are having events, and I want at the end, I would like to have profitable. I would like to work for customers that I can do a profitable event. Now, I also like to have a certain look. I prestigious type of projects. I like to do projects that have some creativity. I'm not looking for the cookie cutter, 15-year-old birthday parties. I'm looking for great actual events where we can put our snaz and creativity in it. That's what inspires me as an owner. Those are the type of projects I want to work on, right? So you're looking at understanding that right there. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Look, it's different for every business, but we
Yeah.
start with what is your ideal project,
Yeah. All right.
right?
So
Like where are you making your money? What is a good sale, right? And then we want to analyze, while we understand then what a good sale is, how many of them are there? Because look, it may be a phenomenal sale, a phenomenal opportunity, but if that's 1 in 1,000, does 1 in 1,000 work for your business? Where are you trying to go? How many of those do you need to be able to hit the goal you're trying to hit, right? So then a very practical conversation comes once we identify, hey, this is the perfect opportunity for us, but geez, one of those only comes along, every World Cup, right? It's like, all right, well, every 4 years and we'll plan for that, right? But I think that we want to identify the likelihood and the our ability to be able to find more and more of that type of opportunity, right? And then we want to talk about, good, what is your next best opportunity? Because there may be a lot more of them that we can get for substantially cheaper than you're paying to get them now. And that could be the real opportunity for scale, right? So absolutely, do we want to maximize that very best opportunity? Sure. But if that's going to be limited in quantity, let's identify that and let's move on to what you need to actually run your day-to-day business, working backwards in your level of priority.
So you might say, hey, my big party with the fancy costumes and outfits and dressing up the whole building, that's my favorite type, right? I love those. We can make a profit, but you can't get a lot of those. Maybe doing, guys, quinceañeros parties, that's going to get you there, right? You got enough to get some food. You can do 100 guests. It's a basic package, but, it's not the fancy one you like, but maybe that's a bread and butter type of client. And there's lots of those available.
That's right. So identifying the priority, generally it is chasing the profit, so to speak. But then there's also the opposite end of the spectrum, right? Where it is, hey, these are awesome parties to get our foot in the door. We don't make a lot of money on them day one, but lifetime value, man, these things are happening all the time and it spreads like mad. When we do this type of kid party or whatever it is, it may be not an individual big money maker, but the amount of referrals we can generate for that type of party is through the roof. So where you look at the lifetime value of doing one of those types of parties, then it may be substantially higher than what you think is your best party opportunity, right? So I think we got to look at it from both sides. Look at the amount of the opportunities that are available, look at the amount of referrals that generally come from that type of opportunity, and the frequency with which these things are happening. And all of that can be applied to any business from my perspective. Just
Got
about.
it. So it's a painter. Hey, I'd like to paint the whole house, but if it's a matter of painting a couple of rooms, maybe it's not as big a project as I want, but maybe I can be just as profitable by sending, a couple guys out, paint 2 rooms and be out of there. Maybe not the big number at the end, but if I do those every day, that turns out pretty good. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
That's right. Yeah. Look, and there's also a matter of you have staff. And more often than not, you're paying your staff, whether they're working 8 hours a day or 3 hours a day. And so you absolutely need some things to fill the schedule. Again, right? It's that practical conversation between marketing and advertising and operations that becomes so meaningful because you have staff, you have capacity, you have overhead that is there, whether you're busy or not. So let's find a way to keep you productive, to keep you busy.
Well, and let's talk a little bit about that because the idea is that look, you're going to get busier by doing marketing, right? The whole idea behind great marketing is that the end goal is you want to be busier.
Sure.
Now, how many clients are you working with? Because I see this happen all the time. They go to grow, but their business, their operation isn't ready for it,
Yep.
right? There as and it's not malevolent. I don't think they're out there going, yeah, forget this. I'm trying to mess this whole thing up. It's just they don't understand that, hey, you said you're going to make a sales call someone back, but you take a week to call them back. By the time you call them back, they already called 2 other people, right? Or you said you're going to be there on Tuesday and showed and you came up with some excuse because your guy was too overwhelmed. They couldn't handle the amount of sales calls they were making. Or, you said you're going to send them a proposal back. It took you 3 times longer than you expected to send that proposal back because you're too busy. How
Yep.
many of those, how many times does operations, if not set up properly, mess up the sales pipeline?
Oh, it's an everyday conversation. It's an everyday analysis, Anthony. I think that, we know that if the operation can't support the amount of additional inbound opportunities, we don't stand a chance to run an advertising campaign that can be optimized or maximized, right? So we want to understand what that full funnel looks like. We want to understand how many phone calls are being missed or not followed up on, because ultimately we can say, oh, well, that's not our problem. That's a business problem for you. You need to figure that out. But at the end of the day, it absolutely impacts the dollar that they're able to generate from the dollar that they put in on advertising. So it does impact us, right? So we want to have those
Yeah.
conversations at the onset. We want to say, hey, I know you're looking to grow to this number, but let's talk about what that means. Do you have the 5 additional people that need to run 3 additional jobs a day to be able to make this a reality? Or is this just a revenue goal that you have in mind that the operational piece of the business can't really support yet? Right. And so we want to have that conversation at the onset and be a real strategic partner in growth with our clients, because you may have the most aspirational growth goals in the world, but if you can't pick up the phone and you can't service the customer, you're destined for failure at the onset.
No, you're already in trouble.
Absolutely. You don't stand
Yeah.
a chance.
Right. And that's just one of the spots where I look at pipelines with people all the time and go, guys, we've got to get from one getting, let's get the pipeline created. Now let's kind of back up a little bit further. Now, so operations being able to take on the project, let's make sure that's not the bottleneck. So make sure that we're working with your groups to understand as a project comes in, an opportunity comes in, whatever that project, whatever the opportunity is, how is it going to be received? How are we handling it? How are we making the biggest impact? Because that costs us some money. A lot of times it's a lot of money, right? There's a real cost to the acquisition of a prospect. And now we want to convert that, right? We want to be able to convert that. And if we don't handle that properly or have a well-defined system that has measurable deliverables and results, then there's impact to that.
Absolutely. Look, I think that doing something while it's small is substantially easier than doing it at scale, right? And I think that, are you also going to be able to deliver the same experience to 100 customers a day that you are to 10 customers a day. And I think that understanding what that means operationally is everything. I think the companies that you see that do it well are those that have been able to scale to, insane numbers, because they're able to replicate that experience at scale, which is a much more difficult thing to do than when a business is small, right? So what are those pillars of success? What are those pillars of conversion that we need to maintain as benchmarks to identify that we are operating as efficiently as we need to continue to scale, right?
I,
And
I
so,
yeah.
go
I
ahead.
mean, there's a whole piece on that, right? I mean, my judgment is that most entrepreneurs don't scale because they don't have a repeatable. They're the bottleneck. They have to be the one to make a decision. They're the ones that are. By the way, I've been that guy. Right here. I've been that guy where I've not my business wasn't scalable because I'm the bottleneck, right? I got to be too involved, and I haven't been able to release and have process, procedures, and outcomes and deliverables that have it be not me, right? Or where I get out of the way and let the
Sure.
people that we hire do those things, and have those people hire great people and grow those systems, because that becomes the essentially the thermostat that stops it, right?
That's a game. Yeah, absolutely. That's a game, right? It's, if your goal, but I think, look, it's all about what your goal is as an operator. Is your goal to not have to be involved? Is your goal to be able to go out away for a month or travel the world half the year and your company not miss you? Because if that is your goal, then you have to look at it one way, right? But if your goal is to, hey, I really love the creative part of my job, but I hate the accounting and the operational part of my job. All right, well, how do we solve for that, right? And so I think that every business owner, that every entrepreneur that I know has certain things about what they do that they love and certain things about what they do that they hate, right? And so if your goal is to be literally replaceable, which is unbelievably difficult to do, then you have to address it very differently than if your goal is to not be able or not have to focus on these three aspects that you despise and be able to focus on these two that you absolutely love. That's a very different mindset going in. And then additionally, if your goal is to say scale from 2 million to 200 million, that is a very different mindset, necessity of operational efficiency than if you're good with where you are, but you just want to be more profitable. That's a completely
Yeah.
different conversation as well.
Well, my judgment is most entrepreneurs, the holdback is 100% us, right? It's the entrepreneur, the mindset, the why I'm doing this. I mean, for years, a lot of why I did was an entrepreneur was to fulfill this, wanted to be liked, wanted to be seen, wanted to be sufficient, or I want you to see me and have some uh, you know I got some fulfillment from that. I never was a college graduate, so my first businesses really were to show the world I've got something. Let me show you what I can do. So a lot of that is having to do with the part of us, the one inside of us that needs some sufficiency or some significance, right?
Sure.
The looking to fulfill that, and as I start to identify, all right, how am I acting, behaving, and delivering? How am I holding back the business? Now I start looking at the pipeline, the processes, why we're growing, and then go, okay, if we're going to grow, I'm going to have to do some changing. Now let's make those changes happen. And I engage a company like you. Now I bring you in, and I've got Andrew, and I've got your policy. Andrew Policy he's got all kinds of new ideas for me. We're going to grow. Now I start to put those matrix in place. Let's talk a little bit about that. How do we start to look at our business analytics and then our marketing analytics and line those two things up?
Yeah, I think that the marketing side is really a secondary piece to the goals of the company and the current operations of the company, right? I think that a good marketing partner, a good advertising partner wants to start with a goal in mind and then understand how the business operates and what the business is currently capable of before they start telling you everything they're going to change and how they're going to revolutionize your world in marketing and advertising, right? Because I think that everybody is so quick to the me conversation about how they do things and how they're the best thing since sliced bread from an advertising perspective. But if they're not talking to you about what it is that you're trying to achieve in working with your next advertising partner, in my mind, that is a recipe for a very short-term relationship, because you are not fundamentally aligned in what you're trying to do and in what it's going to take to get there, right? As we just mentioned, you have these ideas as an entrepreneur, you have these ideas as a business owner, or as a CMO or VP of marketing, whatever it is that we interface with on a daily basis, of where they want this to go, of what they're trying to achieve, of what success looks like to them, right? Here's the thing. There are absolutely many stops along the way from what we create that is out there in the world as the advertising bait, so to speak, and then what it takes to achieve the ultimate goal, right? And so that is where we spend a lot of time, is in understanding the operational components of what has to happen between what we put out into the world and the ultimate growth goal or the ultimate measure of success. And we want to talk about the things along the way that are generally pretty operational in nature that would need to happen for us to be able to hit that goal, right? What is your sales process? How many of your initial opportunities or of your initial quote unquote leads actually turn into sales? And what does that process look like, right? If you want to grow 50%, but your guys are working 15-hour days as it stands, and you don't want to hire any more support staff to facilitate that growth, you're not going to get there, right? You're going to go in the opposite direction, which is, what we'll see a lot when we're having these types of growth conversations. It's like, geez, I just lost half my customer service staff, or I just lost 20% of my sales staff because they said they were working too much and not making enough money. So it's like, we got to cut everything way back. And it's like, look, that's where operations becomes a real marketing and advertising problem very quickly. We've gone through it. We've seen it.
Every time we grow, the every business I've ever been part of has had this, you go through that frustration part, and the first inclination that everybody has is, let's slow down. Let's stop.
Yep.
I'm in the storm. I'm trying to grow. Things are getting messed up here. I've messed it up a few times. We should slow down, right? I don't know what we're saying. We should take it back. Let's go back to a couple of years ago where things were nice and easy, or at least better. We forget that it's in order to grow a business, we're going to have to go through the storm, right? It's he who can go through the storm in a way and continue to move through it, right? Because there's that idea of growth, and growing the idea, and then growing it. In between those two is a lot of brain damage, and most people can't make that bridge, right? Most people can't take that transition to go through that bridge. Now you start to work with the, you start looking at, there's always this battle between, you guys get the leads, or quote unquote leads, right? You get the opportunities. Right now, the estimator or the salesperson goes out and looks at the deal, and let's say they don't convert it. There's always this kind of argument that says, well, it was a bad lead to begin with. It had nothing to do with how the conversion, how the process happened, how they showed up. The guy smelled or didn't look good, or didn't write the thing, or didn't show up on time. There's no accountability for, or measurable. I mean, how do we measure that? How do we look at, all right, where we having success and where we having failure in the conversion?
Yeah, look, I think that critical mass in data solves everything. And what I mean by that, I know that sounds like some hocus pocus, but what I mean by that is all things over time reveal the real issues, right? If you look at one opportunity, that may have been a bad lead. It may have been an unqualified opportunity, right? But I think that over time, what you ultimately see is, how are your colleagues dealing with that same lead source? How is the customer service representative turning that lead source or that opportunity? How often are they turning it into an appointment? How often is that appointment turning into a sale? And so when you start analyzing over time, you get more and more data to be able to analyze, is this a platform problem? Meaning this particular platform, whether it be Google or paid social or LinkedIn, whatever it is, regardless, right? Is it a true platform problem where that platform is generating bad leads? Or is it a personal problem? Meaning you're looking for every excuse not to make the sale, and your counterparts are selling, at twice the efficiency that you are with those same leads, with that same platform, right? Now you can get into, conversations all day long about different offers that may lead to lower ultimate conversion rates, et cetera, right? Like that can generate issues too. If that, from the initial offer that somebody responds to all the way through to the sale, if that is not consistent, if there's a switch pitch of some sort there, then that's destined for failure as well, right? But when you start analyzing individual team members against their peer set, that's where things get really interesting. And those excuses tend to fall by the wayside, because if somebody else is converting at 7 out of 10, you're only converting at 2 out of 10 with the same lead source, and you're full of excuses. That's probably an opportunity where you just need more coaching. You need, to be pulled aside and to be pulled out of the field and have, proper education, proper information bestowed upon you to be able to do a better job with that source.
So I absolutely agree with that. I think that's a great way to look at it. There's so much new technology that it's in place now. Where these large language models, this AI that's starting to really approach us. As you start to integrate those into the marketing sales funnel, what's your approach to it? How are you start to look at it? What's the opportunity for the entrepreneur?
Well, look, I think that, our ability to generate ideas is easier than ever, right? It is easier than ever to generate a baseline set of, ideas that maybe the team didn't think of before or hadn't thought of in that way. But what I would caution is that the execution of these ideas, the fundamental evolution of an idea in either written format, because a lot of what we're doing is trying to come up with, going way beyond the initial idea, and how is that executed online or on the air, right? That is where the technology still fundamentally falls on its face, right? Because it is pulling from sources that exist on the internet, and it does not understand credibility, validity. It is just pulling from any random source that it finds as a valid online source. So that could be TMZ, that could be the National Enquirer, or that could be a news source,
Wait,
right?
National Enquirer still around?
Oh man, I'm telling you, stronger than ever.
Come
But
on,
no,
those are the best ragnos ever out there.
absolutely. But as the example, right, it's not smart enough to detect the difference. And so you can't use it. A lot of people want to use it to generate real content. And that is just a massive fundamental mistake that we see. But in terms of generating different or unique ideas all day long, if you've got writer's block and you're stuck on kind of where to go or where you want to take a certain product or something of that nature, then great. Use it to come up with a laundry list of things that you may not have thought of. But using it to fundamentally create something very different.
I think that's a perfect spot to use it right now. It gives so much creativity. In fact, even if I'm writing something or I want to do something, I use it as an idea creator, and then I can really branch off from there. But I love that it gets me in a neighborhood that may take me a minute or so to form, and it kind of gets me there a lot quicker, and then I can kind of modify from there to kind of to get that. Are you getting anywhere where with the models where we're automating the sales funnel pipeline?
Absolutely. So, look, I think that there are certain components of the funnel that are easy to automate at this point. I think that as you train the model that you're looking to apply, I feel like there is a lot of opportunity to use it in certain places. Right. I think that expecting it to do the job for you is not a reality, but expecting it to be able to speak from a position that has a similar voice or tone that the company does, to be able to engage in some chat functionality, some back and forth before you transition that to a human. I think that that's a great utilization of it, right? I think that some base level or surface level conversation can be a very effective means of providing a company with scale they don't have from a personnel perspective. But as it relates to kind of the human component of relatability and emotion, I think that's where it still struggles, right? So depending on the size of the sale that you're looking for, I think that you'll see a lot more volatility in terms of being able to utilize it to really, perform sales components.
Still not quite there, but start to practice. I still tell everybody keep practicing with it. Use it as much as you can. Get it as integrated into your life as possible. Hey, Andrew, as we start to close up here, I want to make sure people can get a hold of you. Look, there's a lot of entrepreneurs that are out there. They're looking for the right coach. I mean, you could call yourself a marketing coach, or you're a CMO, or whatever you want to. You go onto a company and you really help them approach how they're looking at their marketing ideas. How do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, I would say that on all socials, Andrew Palosi, and then Ad Leverage is the name of the agency. And it is truly a full service, one stop shop, not to be too cliche, but we view ourselves as both advertising and marketing managers and your true operational partner, right? There are so many, connections between the two that are easily ignored if you're only looking at the advertising or marketing piece and not how it impacts the actual business. So we try to make it easy to bridge that gap.
We will make sure we put all that down below in the comments. Guys, you can go click on that and you go right to Andrew's website and you'll love getting in there. And also I'll make sure that I put some good notes in here so you can get some of the breakdown on how we got, from being good operations, bad operations, talk a little bit about, Vanity and what we're doing there and give you some good links to that in the podcast. Andrew, any last words for the audience?
No, Anthony, I would just say, as you're trying to embark on any aspect of the scaling evolution of the brand, make sure you're talking with people and dealing with people that are talking about real business struggles, real business needs, and that the conversations are around fundamentally fulfilling the things that you need to fulfill in order to achieve the growth you're trying to achieve. I think when they make it about them instead of you, those are temporary relationships that are destined for failure.
Your wisdom and your light shines bright. Andrew, I'm so grateful to have had you on this podcast. It is really a joy. You look at it in a different way. You're not just take, really investing in the customers. And my judgments, that's why you're so successful, why people love working with you. Audience, as always, I'm thankful for you listening. Hey, could you guys do me a favor? Last week, we did some analytics and noticed that a lot of you made it to the end of it. Over 42% of you that made it to the end of a show did not like and subscribe or hadn't subscribed yet. Could you take a second and do that now for Joe and Connor and the team in the background that do all the hard work putting this together? It means the world to us. We get great guests like Andrew on here, and the more subscribers we get, the more people we can attract, and I'm always grateful for that. So if you guys could take a second and do that now, I would be grateful. And as always, thanks for listening.